meeting of the new Edward Little High School Building Committee meeting. So with that, I'm Karen Matthew, School Committee Chair and representative of Ward 3. I'm not sure if we want to do introductions because there's a lot of us on the screen tonight, and I'm not quite sure how to make this go round and round. But we do have the architects from Harriman with us, as well as Dr. Cornelia Brown, Superintendent. We have Scott Anier, Administrator at EL. We have Billy Hunter, our guru of all, maintenance person, Adam Hansen, Finance, and then several members from the Auburn community with us. So with that, sorry, I didn't mean to be remiss if I didn't mention that we also have two council representatives with us this evening, Tim McLeod, as well as Holly Lasagna, and Pam Hart from the school committees with us as well. So I hope I covered all my bases. If I forgot anyone or any particular category, jump in right now. If not, we'll get going.
Dave Lewis with Dave Lewis with the Department of Education.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you jumping in.
/ technical consultant / owner's rep.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for that one. All right. With that, we'll take it away.
All right. Lisa's got, I think, pulling up the presentation tonight. As we wind our way toward the very tail end of the process, this phase of the process, getting ready to go out to bid, there's not a lot of new material to cover. It's just a lot of updates on how things are getting scheduled as we wind ourselves to this phase of it. So tonight it's a lot about some updates, and but I think there's an important thing we wanted to kind of do. We haven't done in a while before all that, and so and that was do a check-in with those that are present. We used to do this at the beginning of our meetings, and it's been a little while since we've done that. So it's an opportunity just for people to share maybe if they've heard anything in the community or any concerns, or if they've got any questions that they, burning questions that they want to ask. That this is an opportunity for us just to go around and do a check-in.
I think that's an invite to just jump right in, because it's just the way you're viewing. Yes, just jump right in, see who you are, and then just go ahead and jump right in.
Sure. Holly Lasagna, Ward 1 City Councilor, and I mentioned I have to hop off early. So there were two things that I wanted to mention. One, in a recent City Council meeting, and Tim McLeod add to this if he wants to, there was a discussion about sidewalks. And if we can be clear, obviously the sidewalks from the high school, but there's a discussion about we need to make sure that we consider walkability but on Court Street and in area neighborhoods. I know that that Harriman's not paying for that, but it should be something that we make sure that we're cognizant of. And then the second thing was just our meeting schedule. I know that things are sort of in a different place than they were, in the last couple of years. So just to update that to make sure that both were on task, and if we can back off from a few meetings, I'm just not sure if that's possible. But the main thing is the sidewalks.
Very good. Thank you, Holly. And we are mindful of how the site internal circulation connects to sidewalks at those sort of critical points. We're also considering how even the connection, so on Harris, on Western Ave, those are the two primary connection points to the site. But then we also have the connection down to Minot Ave from the Snake Trail, and so we've looked at that interface on our primary entrance points from a walkability perspective. But as you rightly point out, off-site improvements for sidewalks are not included as part of the project.
And I realize that, but I think we just want to keep it up front in terms of any kind of planning that the city's doing, because there's a lot of talk about walkability and sidewalks. And I'm sure Tim as well will make sure that when that discussion happens in any area around the high school, that we really focus on around the high school and maybe give it some priority because of students walking to school. Does that sound right, Tim?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue was that we just wanted to make sure that the site included great walkability to Western Ave and to Court Street, to what you're saying in Harris. But we just wanted to make sure that we're not building $1 million sidewalk to, a non-ADA sidewalk on Western Ave that we now need to dump more money into, which we might need to, but we just want to make sure that we're getting that up front. So as the construction starts, the city can start to reprioritize, if needed, some of those crossways to make sure that we're not fighting each other in terms of, walkability and connectivity.
And I just wonder if sometime in the near future, and maybe we do this offline just with, I'm not sure who would be included, but just to make sure that when Tim and I when we talk about the capital improvement plans for the city, that we're focusing on sidewalks around the high school. Perhaps that may be a first level that we look at. This is nothing that has been decided by the council, but I think it's just important that that we look at, as Tim said, the walkability in the sort of other neighborhoods around there.
Yeah, Holly, I'm making a note just for us to maybe again put a little narrative together for you that says here's where we are able to make connections with this project, but here's where some potential further enhancements may be made in the neighborhoods, beyond the scope of this.
Yeah, that's great. And the sooner we can begin to talk about that, the better, because it might shift some of the what is going on with public works in terms of sidewalks.
Okay. And then with respect to the meeting schedule, I think we'll kind of cover that a little bit as we get towards the tail end of it, but it's an excellent point.
Mark, I have a question that was brought up, again, pertaining to the greenhouse. Now that the school has repositioned, there was some concern, since it is a lab space, to make sure that it's, when it's reconstructed, that the sun rises and sets on the sides of the building so that it can be utilized as the lab space. Otherwise, it wouldn't be conducive for the wintertime growing season that they would need it for.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy, and I think we'll make a note of that just to make sure we've optimized its orientation to that point. Good. All right. Hearing no other questions or updates at this time, we'll move into some of the other points here. And the next one on our list is just a quick update on the recordation as required, if we all remember, by the Army Corps of Engineers as part of the mitigation for the destruction of this historic asset we all know as Edward Little High School. And so I think, Lisa, we've got just a little slide here that captures kind of the very few update points, but as of today, they are nearly complete with the site visits to document. And that's primarily to photograph the work. And so thank you, Billy and Scott and others who have accommodated them. It's been primarily on Wednesdays, but they also, I think, came this past weekend. Yes. And they have, as expressed today to Scott, they have one more visit to kind of tie up loose ends. They are also moving now into their research phase, and so they have reached to see if there's documentation with respect to the existing building photographs. I think Scott kindly volunteered to see if he had some and that he could send them, but they will be doing a research on as much of the existing building as they can. And then that really concludes their work. They'll put it into a report and they will send it to the Army Corps. We'll see a copy of it as well. But that will conclude that. That report will also be on file with the Maine Historic Preservation Office.
Mark, can I ask about the research they need to do? Just to clarify, it's not like they'll research something and discover that we need to pause for any reason. It's just like researching to sort of document what types of architecture is here just to go into their full report.
Exactly, Leonard. Yeah, they've already sort of determined that the value of the asset was enough that we had to reach to this point to actually do this step. But there's nothing in the research that's going to do anything at this point. It's just simply to document the building.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, they're looking for like old photos, any kind of documents that kind of supported the original construction, just to kind of enhance the recordation.
Scott, you might be interested in passing along to them. I have the original EL brochure, or one of them, in my office with photos of the proposed building. Do you have that brochure at the high school?
I do, and it might actually be on the other side of my desk.
Okay, so anyway, just to make sure that they have that, because that's the proposed site and the original building.
Yeah, I have some, actually, a tube full of really old documents of the original survey and all of that, that I'm going to share with them, as well as some of the photos that are scattered here in my office, as well as in the vault.
Very good. Thank you, Scott, for that continued effort to document what was, or what is that will be was.
My pleasure.
All right, and I'll turn it over to Lisa now for update on our pre-qualification process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. So the update, since we last talked, we have all the submissions in. The Department of Education is still going through their review process of the applicants. Once they are complete with that review process, we will then have a list of general contractors that we can notify about whether they were pre-qualified or not pre-qualified. And then from there is where we start to do our advertisements and get ready to go out to bid. So it's kind of a high level overview until we kind of have more information as to what the final list will be. One thing you will notice on the slide, and we'll cover it a little bit later, are the dates for those advertisements and the bid docs. One are really driven by the outcome of our DOE meeting, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail here later on, which would be the next slide. And so at the DOE meeting earlier this month, the big takeaways were that we arrived at what state board meeting we will be part of. So we will be part of the December state board meeting. That board meeting occurs on the 9th, which means we have a building committee or building construction committee meeting with the state November 20th. We'll be at the state board on the 9th. And in a little bit, you'll see how that, when that sends our documents out, it's around December 15th. The other thing that came out of that meeting is we had been carrying deduct alternates. They have requested that we change those to add alternates. So what that means is the number that comes in on bid day, the base will be everything without the alternates, and then the alternate items are added in as money is available if we come in under budget. And so the other thing was we a couple additional alternates were added. As we were finalizing the estimate, there was still a discrepancy that we needed to account for. So we identified 4 alternates to make sure that the base bid we have is estimating at budget right now. And then all of these alternates are options to where we can add things into the project depending on how the numbers come back. It's a very common practice as we go out to bid. We don't know what the numbers will come back at. Essentially, we kind of monitor the market, and with our estimates can gauge where we predict it might be, but it all is driven by competition. The good news is we have a lot of general contractors that are interested in the project, so hopefully that means that it will be competitive. That said, the 4 additional alternates that were brought forward is the roof protection board. And so this is a board that is on top of the roof insulation. So instead of the roofing being adhered to the insulation, there's a board in between. We are carrying that as an alternate. Wasco dome skylights. So this looks at the sky, all the skylights except for the large skylight when you walk into the community entrance. That will remain in the base bid. The others will be considered alternates. And then the greenhouse. Through this investigation of the greenhouse, which we were talking about earlier, we found that it can't be relocated due to the condition and I think the many lives that it's had. And I think Scott and Billy might be able to speak to that a little bit more. But Frank and Billy and Scott went and looked at the greenhouse, and it was determined that it wouldn't survive the move. And so there's going to be a new greenhouse, and right now that is identified as an alternate. And then the sunshades. So sunshades on the southern exposure of the building is listed as an alternate. I'll pause there and see if there's any questions. Not seeing any.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Yeah.
So this is additional alternates are on top of the ones that we already have outlined, correct?
This is the list, and then these are the ones that have been added to that list.
And is that addition because we think we might have the funds, which I'm not assuming, but because these are in going through the process and sort of fine tuning things, we realize that these are things that could or should happen?
So this is driven by going through the process and dialing in the cost, the latest cost estimate, and realizing that there was a delta in regards to the numbers were coming in higher than we would like. And so an exercise to try to bring it within budget, but still provide us the flexibility to try to get as much scope as we want is when we start to identify those alternates. And those are the 4 additional ones that we've identified here.
Were they in the original plan? I'm sorry, I don't recall, but they were in the original plan and now we're pulling them out because of the higher costs?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lisa, can you go back through, can you flip back 1 to 11, please?
Yep. So these are the ones that we reviewed at our last building committee meeting. And we can go through these again if folks would like, or I can just leave them here and we can raise questions if folks have them.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to take a peek at them again.
Yep.
I just had a question. Are these already in an order, either by price or by priority, or are these just randomly put in at the
That's a great question, Tim. They're not. And so they're not by price, they're not by priority. And in a future meeting, what we'll want to do with this committee here is talk about priorities. And the good thing is we don't have to, even though they're numbered 1 through 11 on this slide and through 15 on the next, that doesn't mean that we have to take them in that order. They will have that number on the drawings as an identifier, but we can talk through what that priority is here with the representation of the building committee, so that on bid day, when we're there opening bids, we understand sort of where the priorities are from the community and understand, okay, this is the number. And we know the priorities are A, B, C, D, E, and so on and so forth. And that would arrive us at this number, and we can get all of these alternates. So that will be an exercise that we'd like to do with this group going forward.
And Lisa, is it possible to send this slide and the previous slide as an attachment to, I'd just like to put it in the packet for the next council meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monday.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think this is what people are particularly interested in, especially the community right now.
Absolutely. Any other questions on the alternates? I need to make sure I see everybody here. Okay. Not seeing any, we'll move on. Mark, do you want to walk us through schedule and next steps?
I certainly can. And so our last item we want to cover with everyone today in the update is where we are, and we've sort of alluded to part of this, but with the process, the very sort of final stages of the bidding are getting to the point of being able to bid it are shown both on the right side with the Department of Education process, which we have to get our sign off to be able to go to bid. So our final review and our design and funding approval will occur, and that's the state board meeting that we need. So that's identified as that critical approval of phase of this. And so that we have a two-step process for that. That begins with a subcommittee meeting that we have November 20th, in which we'll present it to the school construction subcommittee. And then that then is approved by the state board on December 9th. So that's now fixed in that order. So those will occur for the state board approval. And then we move into the bidding phase and receive the bids. The bids will have a two-part process as well. We have filed sub bids, which we've explained, I think, in the past, but that's for a specific scope of work that the general contractor will carry. And they're usually large scopes for subcontractors in several trades, and it'll usually be around 6 or so sub-filed contract bids on this. And then after we have the sub-filed bids come in, then we will have the final general contractor bids come in. And as Lisa, I think, alluded to earlier, that is in February when we receive the general contractor bids. And then we will then evaluate the bid. We will then make an award and then execute the contract. And then the contractor will mobilize and the construction will commence. So that will be in the spring of 2021. And there we go. There's some of these dates that I was alluding to. We have the state construction committee on the 20th. We have the state board on the 9th, and then tentative bid date. That means that the date that the drawings are going to be available to contractors is the 19th of December. And we've now kind of coordinated this with the Department of Education.
So Mark, this is Connie. What would be your anticipated groundbreaking day or month?
Yeah, I think what we typically would see is that groundbreaking would happen in late March or early April, depending on the contractor's availability to get all of their subcontracts in order, and they will then have some aspect of when their construction sequencing begins. And then oftentimes what they'll do is we'll do a ceremonial groundbreaking that is in and around the time that they officially will start.
Yeah. And will you provide all the golden shovels?
We'll make sure we have plenty of golden shovels and hard hats, and we'll do everything we can to help celebrate that, because that'll be an incredible day, folks. And so I think it's a great day for the community to really rally around getting to this milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the only other thing we had put on here about the next building committee meeting, right now we've put to be determined. I know on the agenda we had made a suggestion for a date, but speak to kind of, Holly, your earlier comment about sort of the rhythm and the spacing of the meetings right now. We're really in that production, getting ready to go out to bid. There's not too much to report on. And so I think it may make sense to meet next before the bid opening so that we can talk through the order of alternates. But I kind of want to just throw that out. I don't know. And we also want to make sure that if there is a desire to keep the communication and the rhythm the same, we can also do that as well. But there isn't too much to report on in this time period until we get to really the bidding, and then after that, the bid opening is the big part of communication.
I think the other thing we want to also, we're going to work with Dr. Brown in terms of if there are any other communication updates we need to make to various committees or boards.
Correct.
I'll see, Tim and I can find out if the council wants some kind of an update directly to them. I mean, I think we can probably give them a good, what we've got here, and there may be, again, as you mentioned, Lisa, in terms of the rhythm, you may feel that there's a time that would be good. They haven't asked for it, but I'm sure once maybe things go out to bid or something, I just don't know what the right time would be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the next biggest item that the council would like to see and know about, since we're doing additive alternatives, is what our base school looks like based on our bonded budget, and then kind of what we would get for the money we're getting now, and then the hopeful additions, and also what was separated out with the fundraising promise to, the second field. What items are further down on the list based on that type of stuff? That would just be helpful. A lot of people want to hear that side of it.
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think he's right that once we go through and prioritize that list, then maybe have a meeting with the council to talk about that.
And Mark, you folks are coming to the school committee meeting next Wednesday, right? To do a update and presentation?
That's correct. Yep. I was alluding to that, but yes. Yep.
Mark, do you need the meeting where the discussion of alternates, where we create this list? Do you need that meeting you need it prior to December 9th?
No, we don't. Well, what Lisa was suggesting is that the alternate prioritization isn't going to come into play until we receive bids.
Okay.
And that way, and even when we have the prioritization discussion with this group, we'll still revisit those assumptions when we actually know the numbers associated with all of those. And so we'll sort of go through that exercise at the time that the bids are open. So
Okay.
no, the 9th is simply the formal process for the State Board of Education to approve us going to bid. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Mark,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
does it make some sense to meet after the state board meeting and not before it?
yeah, I think that probably makes good sense. Absolutely. I think again that will be another sort of point for celebration. We'll have kind of this formal approval for us to have gone through this entire process and get it ready to go out to bid. That's a great idea.
I guess I was looking at either the December 5th. I was looking at December 15th, but if that's too soon. I know you've historically met the last Tuesday of the month. Has that been the history of when this committee gathers?
Very close to that.
Okay.
It was the last Tuesday, and sometimes it was the third Tuesday. It's varied a little bit. But yeah, I think after the state board would make sense, and that way we can at least we can celebrate their approval by the state board, and we're headed out to bid, and then be able to field any other questions folks have, and it might be at that time we can start to prioritize, or at least start the conversation about prioritizing alternates. It may take us a couple meetings and get that conversation started.
Okay, then do we want to look at something, I understand banging up against some of the holidays, but I'm looking at, I know we could potentially do like the night of December 22nd. It's a Tuesday night. Do we want to put that on there just as a potential date?
We could do that, or we can do the 15th too. If I think you had said that earlier, was there I think that either one would work. The 15th is right after the school board.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was too close afterwards, but the 15th works. The 15th works as well. I don't know if that works for other folks, but we're looking at December 15th. So if that works for the majority of people on this call, then let's tentatively schedule it December 15th, 5:00.
Sounds good.
Sound good?
December 15th, and that was at 5:00.
Yes.
All right. That sounds like a plan.
In terms
Can
of,
I-
oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, in terms of presenting to the city council, once we've looked at the prioritization list, does it seem like January would then be the time? I just want to make sure we get on the agenda.
Yeah, I think it would be good to present it prior to bids, and so that sounds like a good time frame, Holly. We'll have,
Okay.
I think, we'll have had enough time, I think, to review it with this committee. So.
Okay, I'll suggest that then.
Can I jump in real quick? This is John. Does this 5 o'clock really, when we have to do this? I'll be honest, I'm actually driving home right now in my car. This 5 o'clock time's kind of tough. I don't know if we push it later, if it pushes it out for everybody else. I mean, if I'm the only one, don't change, but the 5 o'clock time's really hard.
I can do later.
Is pushing it to 6 work better for you, John?
Yeah, I think that would allow us to get home. Like, did you guys know Zoom works on Apple CarPlay? I just found that out tonight. So I think 6 o'clock, especially when we get into the conversation about selecting the alternates, I just think having really good, so everyone can be there, because we want to make sure we're all available.
Yeah, sure. That's absolutely. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I expect some better treats in my Halloween basket when I come trick-or-treating at your house, though.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so December 15th, 6 o'clock then.
Good.
All right.
All right,
Very
that's
good.
all that we have.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Seeing none. Thank you so much, Mark and Lisa. I think we are good. And with seeing no one else wanting to comment, nothing in the chat box, I think we're good to adjourn.
Very good.
All right, everyone. Thank you
you
so
all.
much for joining. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all. Take care.
Good night now.
Good night.